So I've been holding off on this, but it is time to make Mika Zibanejad a healthy scratch.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1181 of the Locked On New York Rangers podcast. I'm your host, John Chick. Just want to thank you guys, as always, for making Locked On New York Rangers your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you will get started with $150 in bonus bets. If you win your first $5 bet, visit FanDuel.com to get started. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So I'm not going to beat around the bush here. Let's just dive right into it. Rangers lose 6-3 to the Winnipeg Jets last night, and it is time to make Mika Zibanejad a healthy scratch. And let me just say right off the bat here, I take no joy in saying this. I like Mika Zibanejad. I'm certainly appreciative of some of the things that he's done, some of the performances that he's had with this team over the time that he's been here. Obviously, now the second longest tenured Ranger on this team after only Chris Kreider. And I do recognize that if the Rangers want to go where they want to go, or if they are to go where they want to go, then they're going to need Mika Zibanejad to play a heck of a lot better than this. He's just not been anywhere near good enough. And I think something that is especially discouraging about this game is that in this one, it felt like he was trying to turn a corner. At times, it felt like he was going to turn a corner. Now, he did have that atrocious giveaway in the first minute of the game that led directly to a Winnipeg Jets goal. That made it 1-0 in favor of Winnipeg. But after that, I thought he picked it up a little bit. There was a situation where he hit the post. He hit the post at least once in this game. There was a play in the offensive zone where the Jets, it looked like they were going to, start moving up the ice on a rush of their own. And Mika's able to steal the puck, get it to Panarin. Panarin over to Lafreniere. Couldn't quite turn it into a goal, but a really nice play there by Mika. There were honestly a couple of times in this game where Mika made some nice plays, but then he just completely undid all of that by making some atrocious plays that led directly to Winnipeg Jets goals. No fewer than 3 Jets goals in this game came as the result of just a bad play by Mika Zibanejad. And again, I thought that maybe that early miscue was going to light a fire under Mika, and that, maybe that was his rock bottom, that terrible giveaway that he had in the first period. Well, I was wrong about that because it only got worse there from there for Mika Zibanejad. So let's go ahead and break down some of the mistakes that Mika made that led to these Jets goals, and then I'm going to have some thoughts on the idea of making Mika Zibanejad a healthy scratch. And spoiler, I'm there. I think it is time for this to happen. Do I think it'll happen? No. I'll elaborate on that more in just a minute. But again, let's go ahead and break down a couple of the plays from this game, specifically the Jets goals that were scored due to Mika Zibanejad giveaways. Mika Zibanejad, hey, you can credit him with 3 assists in this game. The problem is that they were all for the Winnipeg Jets. The first goal, I touched on this briefly just a second ago, but you start the game, the Kreider, Trocheck, and Smith line, they get the start. They're out there. Good first shift. Kreider hit the outside of the post. They were buzzing in the offensive zone. Trocheck had a chance to score. Wasn't able to convert either. But then the Rangers change on the fly, and the Rangers pass it into their own zone. I think it was Panarin that, passed back to the zone, and nobody was there. The pass wasn't completed. But, Igor leaves the puck for Adam Fox behind the net. Fox to Panarin along the boards. Panarin leaves it for Mika. Mika passes very softly up the boards to no one except for a player on the Jets. The Jets player, I guess technically he gets a takeaway for this. It's the easiest takeaway that he'll ever get in his life. And then he passes in deep to Mark Scheifele, and Scheifele is able to score from the doorstep, 1-0 Jets. So again, just a really bad play by Mika Zibanejad. I just don't know what he's thinking on this play. I don't know what he's trying to do. He was kind of in a tough spot on the ice, but if nothing else, just hang on to the puck, or if you have to move it behind the net. I'm pretty sure Adam Fox is still back there. You could have had some better options than what he did. Literally anything that Mika Zibanejad could have done on this play was better than what he ultimately did, and of course, it led directly to a goal for the Jets. And as a quick aside here, I have to point this out too. The Rangers are very, very close to giving up a goal in the first minute of the game in 3 consecutive games. It happened 3 games ago, or I guess 2 games ago, however you want to look at it. It happened in this game last night, and it almost happened against Detroit. The only thing that stopped it was an excellent save by Jonathan Quick. So that's not good. That's not championship hockey. You have to start games better than that. And Mika Zibanejad has to, I mean, not just start games better than this, but play a heck of a lot better than this as well. Then you get another goal that is scored by the Jets, gave them a 3-2 lead, and this one to me fell just about entirely on Mika Zibanejad. Mika's got the puck, moving into the offensive zone up the left side, loses control of the puck. He fanned on what I think was a pass. I don't know if maybe he was just playing the puck at the net. That's possible too. It looked to me like he was passing and just kind of shanked his pass. The Jets go the opposite way. Connor's got all kinds of speed, and he can really shoot the puck too, and he scores, and 3-2 Jets. So another turnover by Mika leads directly to a goal by the Jets. And then a third time in this game, this made it 4-2 in favor of the Jets. You got Mark Scheifele scoring just 1 minute and 8 seconds into the third period. Mika Zibanejad has the puck in the neutral zone. He gets his pocket picked. The Jets go the other way. Now, to be fair, this one wasn't all on Mika. The puck went to Jacob Trouba in the corner. He played it around behind the net to the other side of Lafreniere. Lafreniere couldn't handle the puck. The Jets take control of it. They make a couple of passes, and then Scheifele scores on a tip-in to make it 4-2. And while we're talking about it not all being on Mika, I also have to say this. Igor Shesterkin was far from brilliant in this game. I don't know that any of the goals were really of the soft variety, but, I talked about this heading into this game. Igor Shesterkin, he wants to be this fat paid goalie and make, $4 million more than the next highest paid goalie in the NHL. And that's all well and good. I mean, he can negotiate any way he wants. And it's great that, for his part, he's trying to get the best deal that he can. He's well within his right to do that. But as I mentioned in our preview episode when we talked about this matchup, you cannot, if you're Igor Shesterkin, have a game like this. You can't go out there against Connor Hellebuyck, another elite goalie in this league, and give up 5 goals. I'm sorry, you just can't. You're up against another elite goalie and a guy that you seem to believe that you're $4 million per season better than. Well, you have to go out and prove it, and Igor Shesterkin did not do that in this game. But back to Mika here. One other play I want to point out here. This is when the Rangers are down 5-3. It's getting late in the third period. They do get a power play, and I think around this time there was about 5 minutes ago, give or take maybe 4 minutes, somewhere in that vicinity. But the Rangers, again, they're on the man advantage. They work a pass over to Mika Zibanejad. Mika's in the left circle because where else would he be? It's the power play. He's just going to stand in that left faceoff circle there. But they work the pass over there. He goes for the one-timer. The net is wide open, like literally post to post. Connor Hellebuyck did not have it covered. I think if Mika puts this shot on net, it's very likely going to be a goal. I mean, if it was toward the far post, then maybe you could argue that Hellebuyck by then would have gotten back into position and fought it off. But the bottom line, Mika Zibanejad had a wide open net here. He missed the net by about 10 yards, give or take, about 10 yards. He absolutely just shanked his one-timer attempt, and the puck basically, went into the corner. And of note, when this happened, there were some very audible boos in Madison Square Garden. Now, you could argue that maybe they're just booing in general. It's getting toward the end of the game, and they realize that the Rangers have shot themselves in the foot a bunch of times in this game, and maybe they're getting frustrated by this team's inability to get a signature win against a really, really good team. That's all possible. This felt like it was directed at Mika Zibanejad. And it's not like, every single fan in the building was screaming at the top of their lungs and booing their heart out and, throwing things on the... I mean, we don't want that. We don't want fans throwing things on the ice. We don't even typically want them booing. But I think it was notable and, that this booing was being directed at Mika Zibanejad. Again, it wasn't overwhelming. It's not like every single fan in the building was doing it. It didn't last for very long. It sputtered out pretty quickly. But you could hear some boos being, directed toward the ice after Mika Zibanejad just absolutely shanked this one-timer attempt. Because I think the fans, certainly if you go on social media, you can tell a lot of fans are fed up with Mika Zibanejad's play. And clearly some of the fans in the building felt the same way. And then there was another play where, not really a play, it was just a decision that was made. The Rangers, down 5-3, you got to pull Igor Shesterkin with, 3 minutes left or how much time it was at that point. And as this period in the game was approaching, I was really hoping that the Rangers might throw out 6 players that did not include Mika Zibanejad. I didn't think that they would do it, but when the Rangers are down by a goal or 2 goals and they pull Igor Shesterkin late in a game, it's always the same 6 players. It's the 5 players that are on the top power play unit plus Alexis Lafreniere, and I think that's usually the way to go. But based on how Mika Zibanejad has been playing and how some of the other Rangers have been playing, guys like Filipino, guys like Will Cuylle, I was hoping that maybe Mika would sit this one out. I was hoping that maybe Peter Laviolette would send a message. Like, if he doesn't want to healthy scratch him, if he doesn't want to bench him during a game, if he doesn't want to send him down the lineup, then at least do something like this. You're down by 2 goals. You're probably not going to win anyway. I mean, never give up hope, right? But you're probably not going to win. take Mika Zibanejad off the ice and reward somebody who's clearly been skating circles around Mika Zibanejad this entire season in Filipino. Filipino should have been on the ice at the end of this game. And what does Mika Zibanejad do during, this 6-on-5 in the closing minutes here? Take one guess. Yeah, he hangs out in the left faceoff circle waiting for a one-timer. That's all he did. He didn't do anything else. There were no puck battles. There's no moving around. He's just stationary there waiting to take a chance at a one-timer. And by the way, when is the last time Mika Zibanejad scored on a one-timer? Genuine question, because he's only got 2 goals this season. Were one or both of them on one-timers? I don't honestly remember. But, man, he does not score on that play anywhere near as much as he used to. It's very rare to see him convert one of those, and yet that's his entire offensive game. He's just standing there waiting for a one-timer. And then, this happened in the third period. The Rangers changed line combinations again. They go back to Kreider and Mika and Smith, which I approve of. I didn't like the line changes in the first place, but by this point in the game, everything that had happened, it was unlikely to make much of a difference anyway. I would go back to these line combinations going forward, though. You can't keep catering everything to try to get Mika Zibanejad going. Ever since Panarin and Lafreniere have been with Mika, their production has taken a serious hit, and I'd like to see them back out there with Trocheck. And honestly, Trocheck hasn't had a fantastic start to the season either, but that's kind of what's funny right now is there's certain players in the Rangers where maybe you're not getting as much as you'd like out of them. Guys like Trocheck, maybe even Igor. You could maybe throw Riley Smith in there as well. But these guys aren't like killing the Rangers every time they're on the ice the way that certain other players are. Guys like Mika Zibanejad and a couple of defensemen that we're going to get to in a little bit here. But it's just crazy to see what's going on with Mika. There were fans of this team a few years ago that wanted to see this guy as the captain. And I'm not faulting anybody that felt that way because really at that time when the Rangers were about to name a captain, there were 3 candidates. I mean, unless there was a complete curveball out of nowhere pick, it was either going to be Mika or Trouba or Kreider. There weren't really any other, top horses in the race to be the next Ranger captain. I personally wanted it to be Chris Kreider. There were some people that wanted Mika. There were some people that wanted Trouba. The Rangers went with Trouba. But my God, I mean, look at what Mika's giving you on a night in and night out basis. Listen to some of his quotes after this game and imagine this guy wearing the C right now. I don't even want to think about that because either you've got a captain that's playing the way that Mika has been playing, or you got to take the captaincy away from him, and that's a whole mess in and of itself. So that would not be a good situation at all. And granted, it's not like Jacob Trouba is playing a lot better. He obviously is the Ranger captain. But yeah, that would not be a good situation. Do I think it's time to make Mika Zibanejad a healthy scratch? Yes, I do, for all the reasons that I've laid out. He just hasn't been good enough this season. Do I think it's going to happen? No. And if you want to hear something really messed up, compare Mika Zibanejad to Zach Jones. That sounds random at first because they don't even play the same position, obviously. But you look at the next game, they play the Sharks. Regardless of who they play, though, there is a far, far better chance that the Rangers will end up healthy scratching Zach Jones, who might have been the best defenseman on the ice in this game for the Rangers last night. Far better chance that Jones will get scratched than there is that Mika Zibanejad will get scratched. And that's not something that's exclusive to the Rangers. Guys establish themselves in the NHL and they get veteran status. And, it's going to take a lot for any coach to make them a healthy scratch. But when you look at it just on the surface level, that like Jones is more in danger of being a healthy scratch right now than Mika Zibanejad is, yeah, that's pretty messed up. Anyway, we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. We're going to turn our attention to Miller and Jacob Trouba, who, to put it mildly, had a night to forget. We'll dive into their wonderful play in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Omaha Steaks. Nothing delivers comfort and joy quite like the unrivaled quality and taste of Omaha Steaks. This year, skip the holiday hustle and bustle and save 50% off gourmet gifts site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, get a $30 reward card when you shop early and score an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. With 5 generations of experience, they consistently deliver the world's best steak experience, and the gifting experts at Omaha Steaks have made it easy to deliver the perfect gift with thoughtfully curated gift packages starting at $89.99. From legendary steaks to mouth-watering desserts and more, save 50% off site-wide at omahasteaks.com. Plus, our listeners get an extra $30 off with promo code NHL and a $30 reward card when you shop early. That's 50% off at omahasteaks.com and an extra $30 off with promo code NHL. Minimum purchase may apply. And today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is also brought to you by SelectQuote. The World Series, Super Bowl, the Olympics, the world's top athletes get to play in these top-level sporting events thanks to one thing, teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helping over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Get the right life insurance for you for less at selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. Go to selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL today to get started. That's selectquote.com/LockedOnNHL. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. Huge shout out to the everydayers. As always, in our next episode, going to be doing a special crossover edition with JD Young of Locked On Sharks before the Rangers and Sharks play each other on Thursday. But let's go ahead and continue breaking down this one for the time being. Another really rough night for K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba. And I've got a question for New York Ranger fans, and I tweeted out something similar to this last night in the aftermath of just this awesome game by the Rangers against the Jets. Here's my question. Is any Ranger loss ever complete without Jacob Trouba and K'Andre Miller combining for a -6? And they actually outdid themselves last night because they were a -7. Trouba was a -3. K'Andre Miller was a -4. Just another really, really rough showing for these two. Like, to kind of build on that question I just asked, is it even possible for K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba to play well in a game that the Rangers lose? Now, on one hand, that question is, it's a little bit silly. I admit that. That's fine. But because, you when a team loses, it's usually the result of individual players not playing well. And that leads up, it's the sum of all the parts, and the team doesn't play well and you lose. And that's just the way it goes. But it's not like we don't see players on this team have good individual games in losses. Look at last night's game. The entire Hedo line I thought was absolutely outstanding. Will Cuylle, we're going to talk about him a little bit later. I thought he was phenomenal in this game, and I think he's easily the best, most improved player on this New York Ranger team. The defense pairing of Zach Jones and Braden Schneider, I thought they were very good in this game as well. That might be about it, but that's 5 players in a game that you lost 6-3 that all had strong showings. K'Andre Miller and Jacob Trouba, if the Rangers lose, for sure these were 2 of the guys leading the charge. There's no way that they played well, and in a lot of cases, their stats and just the eye test in general are both going to be very, very ugly. We'll start with Trouba here. We're going to break down everything that happened in this game. This is your captain making $8 million per season, and not only is he not anywhere even close to living up to that price tag, but he's regularly a liability. I thought he got off to a decent start this season. They had him paired with Braden Schneider. I thought the 2 of them worked pretty well together, and I'm all for breaking up this Jacob Trouba, K'Andre Miller pairing as soon as possible. It can't get any worse than this. There's no way that these 2 can continue to play this badly if they're on different pairings. So that's out of the way. But as for Trouba, coming into this season, I was tough on him last year during the playoffs, certainly in the aftermath of the playoffs. I thought he put on just an absolute disaster class in the postseason last year, particularly against the Panthers. I've tried to see the positives of Trouba. I've tried to say, like, oh, well, he's got the leadership and he brings the physicality and, all that good stuff. But I'm sorry. Physicality, a couple open ice hits a season that get everybody on their feet, that's great. It's not $8 million a year great. There's no way that money can't better be spent on other places. We thought that the Rangers were going to trade him in the offseason. That fell through. I mean, there's still more questions than answers when it comes to that entire storyline. And we talked about that a lot, and we'll save further talk about that for another day. But, I mean, Trouba's just not playing well. He didn't have as many, eye-popping lowlights in this game as I think that K'Andre Miller did. But there was a critical goal scored by the Jets that made the score 5-3 in the third period with about 6 minutes to go. Trouba's deep in the offensive zone, which is a place where he should frankly never be, because if the Rangers lose control of the puck and it goes the other way, he's not going to be able to get back. He just doesn't have the wheels for it. And again, he's caught deep. The Jets go the other way. They have an odd man rush. You've got K'Andre Miller sliding across the ice. Shot goes wide, but Nemestikov puts the rebound off the backboards into the net, and that's that. And, not a good shift there for Trouba. Something else that was kind of a subplot to this game, the Rangers are playing the Jets. Obviously, the Jets are Jacob Trouba's former team, and obviously the Rangers acquired Trouba from the Jets in exchange for Neil Pionk, and the Rangers also had to give up a first-round pick in that trade. And Neil Pionk in this game ends up with 3 assists. One of them was on the empty netter, but so what? Neil Pionk obviously played well. He had 3 assists. He was a +2. And he led the Jets with 23 minutes and 25 seconds of ice time. Pionk, by the way, now has 17 points in 16 games this season. Jacob Trouba might not get 17 points all season. And you might hear that and say, like, well, that's not really part of Jacob Trouba's game. He's more of like a physical tone-setting defenseman and, a defensive defenseman, the whole 9 yards. Yet now it's not part of Trouba's game. It used to be part of Jacob Trouba's game. His final season with the Winnipeg Jets, he ended up with 50 points in 82 games. The idea of him getting anywhere near that is just laughable at this point. And you can look at it and say, well, okay, but Trouba with the Jets, he was on the power play. Yes, he was. And 18 of those 50 points did come on the man advantage when he was on the Jets that season. But even with that being the case, like, just think of how absurd that is, because the idea of Jacob Trouba being on the power play right now, I can't even say that with a straight face. Imagine him quarterbacking a power play unit. There's no way. I would give every single New York Ranger defenseman that chance before I went to Jacob Trouba with it. I'd put Fox there for sure, obviously. Miller, certainly Jones. Schneider, I would give Schneider that opportunity before I went to Trouba. Lindgren or Trouba, man, that's a tough one. I would definitely put Mancini there before I put Trouba. Lindgren and Trouba would be my last two picks, but one of those two would be my last couple of picks as far as being on the power play unit. So Trouba, it's just a mess, and I don't know, man. For somebody making that much money, it's just I don't know how anybody justifies that contract at this point. Keandre Miller, he looked just atrocious on some of these goals. He was on the ice for all 5 of the non-empty net goals that the Jets scored in this game. He was a -4. He was out there for the first goal, the turnover by Mika Zibanejad. Can't really put that one on Miller. Sean Avery was on him for this. I mean, this play was just such a mess by every Ranger on the ice that I'm not going to single out Miller for this one. But the power play goal that the Jets scored to make it 2-1, he looked just lost on this play. First of all, I think he could have been put in a little bit more of an effort to get the puck away from whoever had the puck on the Winnipeg Jets, just kind of reaching for the puck almost like half-heartedly. And then Fox is trying to clear the puck. He can't do it. The Jets keep it in. They pass back in deep. It's a very late developing, obviously, 2-on-1 situation here. Miller falls down to the ice, trying to stop his guy, not able to do it. And the Jets do a nice little give and go, and Velarde ends up scoring the tap-in goal, so that wasn't good. And then the goal by Nemestikov, we already covered this one when we talked about Jacob Trouba, but Trouba pinches, Miller's the one guy back, Miller goes sliding across the ice. I mentioned this in a recent episode too. The Ranger defensemen have to stop leaning on this as heavily as they do. There's a time to do that, to be sure, and it can work, and it looks cool when it does work. But man, I feel like opposing players are aware of the fact that these Ranger defensemen are going to go down to the ice, and if you just wait them out, they'll slide right out of the way, and then you can do pretty much whatever you want. And we've seen that happen a couple of times recently, and it's got to stop. But yeah, I mean, Keandre Miller, what's going on here? Like, this is a dude that 3 years ago in the playoffs, the year that the Rangers lost to the Lightning and made that improbable run, the year that nobody even thought that they would be a playoff team, he's out there just playing awesome hockey. I mean, really all year, but certainly in the playoffs, he stepped up his game to another level that year. And I'm thinking, man, we've got a superstar on our hands here. Get this guy locked up. This guy's going to be a pillar of Ranger hockey. What happened to that guy? There's flashes of that every now and then, but there's too many games where he looks just very content to be a passenger. I mean, this game, his performance, his stats, the eye test, whatever you want to go with, it pretty much speaks for itself. But it also reminds me of a discussion that we had coming into the season. We were looking at, okay, which Ranger players are in the final year of their contract? Obviously, you had Igor Shesterkin, and that's still to be determined. We'll see what happens there. You got Alexis Lafreniere. That was a big one. He ends up signing the 7-year extension, and I think most of us are happy that happened. And then Keandre Miller. They were sort of the big three coming into the year. Igor, Lafreniere, Keandre Miller. I'm at the point now where, and it's not even close, I would prefer the Rangers, if they announce an extension right now, and it's either Keandre Miller or Kaapo Kakko, give me Kaapo Kakko. Kakko's had a really nice season. He's got, I think, like 8 points in 14 games, which is not a great amount, but he's playing a third-line role. He's not getting a lot of power play time. You'll take that from a third-liner, to say nothing of how well he's played defensively and how good he's been with Filipino and Will Cuylle. That's been the Rangers' most consistent line this season. Certainly, it was their best line last night. There's been a lot of games where that's been their best line. Kakko's an RFA, signed that 1-year deal. I would much rather keep Kaapo Kakko than Keandre Miller right now. A lot of us, and I include myself in this, we fixate on some of the things that Kaapo Kakko does not do or that he cannot do. But if you just remove the draft status and you forget about the fact that he was the number 2 overall pick, and you just look at him for what he is and what he brings to the ice, he's a solid hockey player. I can't say that for Keandre Miller right now. I think maybe Miller has more upside than Kakko, but when is he going to get there? It looked like he was getting there 3 years ago, and ever since then, I mean, I shouldn't say ever since then, but there have been patches since then where we've had to deal with some very uneven hockey from K'Andre Miller, and we're certainly seeing it to start this season as well. One other thing that I'll mention here real quick before we shift our attention to something positive, namely Will Cuylle, is in our last episode before this game, we spent a good chunk of the time previewing this matchup against the Jets because the Jets came in at 14-1. Now they're obviously 15-1. It's a big game and a big test for the Rangers. And I challenged 4 different Ranger players to step up in a big way. 4 guys that have kind of come under fire from Ranger fans and that have not had their A game to start the season. The 4 players I challenged were Mika Zibanejad, Jacob Trouba, K'Andre Miller, and Ryan Lindgren. Lindgren, at least in this game, I didn't really notice him that much, which honestly, when you're a stay-at-home defenseman, is not the worst thing. And for me, I would also say that it's probably a step in the right direction for Ryan Lindgren. The other 3, as far as stepping up in this game, didn't even come close. They played about as bad, all 3 of them, as they have all season. Mika and Miller for sure, and Trouba wasn't much better than either of those 2. So I don't know, man. Those are players that are high-profile Ranger players. They're in big-time roles for this team, and they have to be better if this team is going to get where it wants to go. It has to be better than this. I think all 3 are capable of playing better, but when's it going to happen? We're a good chunk into the season now. What is it, like 14 games in, whatever it is? These guys need to be better. The Rangers cannot win a Stanley Cup if this is what they're going to get consistently from Mika Zibanejad, Jacob Trouba, and K'Andre Miller. All 3 of those guys need to be better. So in just a second, we're going to shift gears here. I want to end with something positive today because it's been 26 minutes of me basically just burying this team. Will Cuylle, really the entire Ranger third line, but especially Will Cuylle, I thought was outstanding in this game, and we're going to talk about him in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by FanDuel. Get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, let's go ahead and wrap up today's episode by talking about something positive, and that would be Will Cuylle. I mean, again, really the whole third line, but I thought Will Cuylle was fantastic in this game. Obviously scored a goal and just continues to play his brand of hard-nosed blue-collar hockey. Last year was interesting to me. I went back and I looked up Rookie of the Year voting. Not that Cuylle was ever a serious contender to win Rookie of the Year. I don't want to make it sound like that. But I was interested to learn that he did not receive a single vote, a single point. The way it works, the people that vote on these awards, or at least the Rookie of the Year award, they all get 5 votes. They get a first place vote, a second place, a third place, a fourth place, and a fifth place vote. Will Cuylle did not even get a single fifth place vote last season. And there were some players on this list that did that, I mean, you've barely heard of. I think people really slept on what Will Cuylle did last season. 13 goals and 8 assists as a rookie, bottom sixer, not to mention the fact that he played a brand of really mistake-free hockey. That's one thing that really impressed me about Cuylle last season is that, with rookies, you expect them to eventually make some kind of a mistake or eventually have one of those games where it's like, are we sure about this? But that never happened for Cuylle. I'm not saying he was out there, lighting it up every single night, but he never had a moment where it looked like he didn't belong. So that was a fantastic rookie season to build on. And he's done exactly that. He's added some more offense to his game. He's scoring some blue-collar goals. He's out there playing his physical brand of hockey. This guy has been one of the most consistent Ranger forwards all season, and he's in his second year. And how old is Will Cuylle at this point? 22 years old, give or take? But yeah, 5 goals and 6 assists in 14 games this season. Will Cuylle is flirting with point-per-game status, and he is doing so while playing almost exclusively in the bottom 6, while averaging only 13 minutes and 43 seconds of ice time per night, and while getting almost literally 0 time on the power play. That's incredibly impressive. He's on pace for almost 30 goals this season. He's also got 57 hits to start the season, 14 games. I'm no mathologist, but that's basically 4 hits per night. And again, doing all that while averaging less than 14 minutes of ice time per night. This guy makes an impact on every shift. He's out there working and grinding every single night and every single shift. And the big stat, my favorite Ranger stat this season, my favorite positive Ranger stat, once again, the Cuylle, Hedl, and Kakko line on a night where they surrender 6 goals, they have still not been on the ice for a single goal against the entire season. At least not when the three of them have been out there together. They briefly broke them up. Not sure, I can't remember if maybe one or two of them were on the ice for a goal against, but when they've been a unit, when they've been a trio, they have still not given up a goal against, and we're almost halfway through November at this point. So that's tremendously impressive. And for me, this line needs to start every single game going forward, needs to start every single period going forward because they're tone setters. We had Will Cuylle scoring a goal in this game. This line really went to work in the offensive zone when the Rangers were down 1-0. Braden Schneider took a shot from along the boards, and Kakko and Cuylle did a great job getting in front, and just, being there for a deflection, being there for a rebound, whatever might happen. And Will Cuylle is obviously able to stuff the rebound home. Again, just another blue-collar goal for a blue-collar player. And then even on the Kakko goal, after the Jets had made it 4-2 in the third period, this was when the Jets scored early in the third, and it goes to 4-2, and they go to the Chytil, Cuylle, and Kakko line, and they immediately score. Once again, more evidence that that's the line that needs to be on the ice in the shift that follows a goal in big spots in the game. They go to work. You've got Chytil, protecting the puck along the boards. He gets it back to Schneider. Schneider takes a shot. The save is made, but the puck is in the crease, and Kakko works really hard in this play to get his stick on it and stuff it home. Kakko hit the post once in this game, too. It was a great night for this line. And, with Will Cuylle, I feel like he could eventually become the next Chris Kreider for this team. And I'm actually going to save that because we're running out of time here today, but I want to explain in great detail what I mean by that. And I want to do that justice. I feel like he's going to be somebody that's going to be a mainstay, a pillar of this Ranger franchise for a long, long time. But like I said, I think I'm going to save that for a future episode, probably after Cuylle has another really good game, which we probably won't have to wait long because he's played well all season. But one other thing I want to say here, one other point I want to make before we call it, the starting lineup for the next game should be Will Cuylle, Filip Chytil, Kaapo Kakko, and the defensemen should be Zach Jones and Braden Schneider. And you know what? The goalie should be Jonathan Quick. Let's go ahead and reward the players that are playing well. Get them out there at the start of the game. Get them out there at the start of every period because those are the six guys that have really been showing up recently, and they're the six that should be on the ice. Like increase ice time for all of those guys. So yeah, I figured we can call it there. Did want to mention it was also Military Appreciation Night at Madison Square Garden. They did a fantastic job with this, like they always do. They always do a really nice job with these different theme nights, and obviously, this is something that was well deserved for all the veterans that were in attendance. But I figure we can call it there for today. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, please send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that's lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. And definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, at @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, at @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to the Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys. I will see you next time.